Good morning. Please rise as you are willing and able for our hymn from the Teal Hymnal, number 1000, Morning Has Come.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shine upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
We bid you welcome. We do not ask what you believe or expect you to think a certain way, but only that you try and lead a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome, all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome, all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. My name is Helen Smith, and I am the service leader today. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday morning with us, whether enjoying the service in person or watching online. I'd also like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, we invite you for coffee and conversation downstairs in our reception hall. Joys and sorrows will be shared after announcements. Please take a moment now to silence your phones, but we encourage you to share your presence with us on social media. Are there any announcements this morning?
Good morning. My name is Yvonne. I'm with the Social Justice Committee, and I wanted to remind everybody that the Crop Hunger Walk is coming up. It's on May 5th, and it starts in downtown Farmington. And you're welcome to join us. Just see me after the service if you'd like to sign up to walk. I wanted to remind you that the funds go to Church World Service, which does good works around the world. And we were fortunate, some of the staff came back from Africa and they shared some of the projects that Church World Service is doing around the world. One is really great. What they do is they create these sand dams. So on the east side of Africa, it's either a lot of rain or no rain. So they showed pictures and they're standing on a riverbed and it's all dry. And so what they do is they assist the people themselves create these sand dams so when it rains really hard, it traps the water and then they can use the water later. So anyways, wanted to share about that. And so we have people from our church are walking. So I was asking if anybody is walking this year's crop walk, you're welcome to make a contribution to them. So Anybody walking in the crop walk, if you can stand up or raise your hand? Yeah, thank you very much.
Morning, Mike DeMott for Daytimers. A reminder that we're meeting this Thursday at noon in Adams Hall downstairs. Bring your lunch and something to drink. We have good conversation, and once a month, one of us volunteers to bring cookies for everybody. So cookies and conversation, it's a good time.
Hi, Barb Iovan, also with Social Justice. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm excited to share again that we will be part of the City of Livonia's Pride event, our second annual event. Last year we had a great start, but this year should prove to be even larger. It's on Saturday, June 15th from 11 to 3. And we again are going to have Ruth Ellis on hand. We're going to be doing a collection of personal care items for them. And last year we were fortunate that membership really jumped in, or I'm sorry, not membership, well, they were there, but the RE committee jumped in and really created a great tent for us to represent the church, and they're going to be there this year, but not in the same capacity. So like any organization, there's always a little group of people that seem to do the brunt of the work and carrying on. We're asking for members, you don't have to be on a committee, to sign up for a time slot to be part of our tent. We're going to set up at 10, and then the event ends at 3. So I'm giving you the opportunity to sign up for just a 1-hour, 60-minute time slot. There's a lot of activities going on that day, kids' activities. We'll have food trucks and music. It really is a fun afternoon. So I'm not saying that, you might burn dinner or miss a flight or get a flat tire if you don't sign up. I'm just going to say it's really good luck if you do, okay? And if you could just leave these on the back pew when we get to the end, that would be great. Keep passing them back after you sign up. Thank you.
Well, good morning. We are, Barb and I are up here. We didn't really rehearse who's going to say what or anything like that. But we have a very important meeting coming up April 28th, 2 weeks from today. It has to do with Article 2, which is, in my opinion, very important, very controversial for UUA and UUCF. We're going to have a, call it what you want, town meeting, conversational conversation, something of that sort. Barb and I are going to kind of coordinate it.
Yes, Tom's going to present the opinion that we don't need to change the bylaws, and I'll present the opinion that the changes being proposed are a positive thing. And then we will have opportunities for people to ask questions and share their opinions.
That's it. And the question had come up, it ain't going to be a debate. It ain't Barb against me. It's us just kind of presenting some ideas and then getting ideas from everybody else and opening up the floor. We're working on details a little bit, but make sure you plan on hanging around April 28th to be part of it. Thank you.
Marie Laurie, Social Justice again. I have a couple things. There are envelopes in your order of service. For those of you at home, there's a link in this week's e-blast. Our Caring Sunday today is for Cares of Farmington Hills. They have a great program, a food program that offers food to people all over the area with dignity. It's very nice. And they also have a grocery store for anybody who wants to shop there and support services, AA meetings. They offer WIC programs and that sort of thing. So please donate if you can. Save the World met last Sunday night. 8 of us wrote 161 letters to get out the vote. I'm very proud of us. We have 2,500 as our goal before October, so please join us next first Sunday of the month. There will be more opportunities as well to do that as well. Thank you.
I just want to let you know that the Peep Show is happening and it's downstairs. The money will go towards our OWL program for next year.
Okay, finally, I'm here for fundraising, and today is the last day of our pledge drive. Well, not the last day of the pledge drive. We'll always accept pledges, but this is our goal, to have all pledges in by today, and we're at 70%. So if you have not submitted your pledge, I have some empty forms, and I want to ask if you have submitted your pledge in the last week and you have a flame, please come up and put it on our chalice. I have 3 names of people that aren't here: Denise and Joe, Diane Nolan, and Tom and Julie Adis. So I'm going to hang their flames for them.
Are there any other announcements?
Well, there's a concert here Saturday night. 7 o'clock, right, Diane? Yes. The choir is singing songs about the earth.
Okay. Please check the UUCF website or emails for other announcements about upcoming events.
So good to see your faces this morning. My name is Reverend Karen Madrone, and I have the honor of serving this congregation. My pronouns are she and hers. Our chalice lighting words this morning come from Cooper Garrett. So I invite you to get settled in your space and to feel all the energy of everything that's happening here. And I also want to echo what Richard said. Please, please come to the Earth Day concert on Saturday night here at 7 o'clock. Everyone is welcome. Thank you. So these words: "O divine love, with the kindling of this flame, may we realize and love our true selves, our true round belly selves, our true bags under our eyes selves, our true naturally hairy selves, our true wrinkles on our skin selves. May our self-love help keep our chalice ablaze." And now let us join in unison reading of our affirmation of mission. It's on the second page of your order of service. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, and live with compassion.
We make space today for authentic and vulnerable sharing, which helps us build this congregation into beloved community. We invite you to share what's going on in your life, to name your feelings and the people on your heart in need of prayer, good energy, best wishes, and other help. We invite you to get into your body and investigate what emotions you're experiencing, to share them as you feel called, so that we can help one another hold our joys, our grief, and our in-between feelings. You are welcome to pick up a stone or stones from the table, infuse it or charge your joy or sorrow, and place it in the singing bowl, where its energy will ripple out to be held by all of us. If you'd like to verbally share something important in your heart, please come and speak directly into the microphone. If you have submitted a joy or sorrow via text, it will be read out loud by me. All are welcome to participate in any of these ways. We light 3 candles. Oh, I forgot to light the little one.
It's lit. It's
Okay.
No, we're waiting for it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We light 3 candles for the intentions that rest in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. 1 for the joys, 1 for the sorrows, and 1 for the strength of the gathered community that can support you and bring you peace.
Let us take all the energy, joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken, things we know that are also happening in our communities, hold them in our hearts, and let's hold a moment of silence together. Please feel these words from this meditation. It's called Our Roots of Resilience by Kimberly Ann Carlson. Feel it deep inside yourself, throughout your whole body. She writes, majestic tree with strong roots. Put that image in your mind. Imagine that majestic tree, wherever that is for you. Feel the gravity of the earth holding you in place. Wiggle your toes as if they were roots. Roots connect you to the earth, lending you strength. Gently sway in the wind, turning your body like a trunk of a tree. If you just want to imagine that, that's fine. But just feel yourself being connected to that tree. Leaning this way and that, bending as the air pushes and pulls. What surrounds you may sway you. It may make you bend, and it may make you feel unbalanced. Wiggle your toes. Come back to the earth. Know that your roots can hold you as you grow and learn. A tree is nourished by the soil and water. You are nourished by food the earth grows and the water it provides. You are cared for and loved by many people. Breathe deeply. Still yourself. Feel yourself as that tree. Know that your roots are strong wherever they are. Wiggle your roots. Let's take another moment of silence together. Let us come back to this place mentally and spiritually and remain seated. We're going to sing number 1009 in the Teal hymnal. It's Meditation on Breathing, and we're going to sing through it twice.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out,
breathe out love when I breathe in. I'll breathe in peace when I breathe out. I'll breathe out love. Is by Sonia Renee Taylor. It's entitled My Mother's Belly. The bread of her waist, a loaf I would knead with 8-year-old palms sweaty from play. My brother and I marveled at the ridges and grooves, how they would summit at her navel, how her belly looked like a walnut, how we were once seeds that resided inside. We giggled, my brother and I, when she would recline on the couch, lift her shirt, let her belly spread like cake batter in a pan. It was as much a treat as licking the sweet from electric mixers on birthdays. The undulating of my mother's belly was not a shame she hid from her children. She knew we came from this. Her belly was a gift we kept passing between us. It was both hers, of her body, and ours for having made it new, different. Her belly was an altar of flesh built in remembrance of us, by us. What remains of my mother's belly resides in a container of ashes I keep in a closet. Every once and again, I open the box, sift through the fine crystals with palms that were once 8, feel the grooves and ridges that do not summit now, but rill through fingers, granules so much more salt than sweet today. And yet, still I marvel at her once body, even in this form say, I came from this.
What was it like to hear that poem? Did you think of your mother's body or someone like a mother in your life? Our culture has shame around having a large belly. I wonder what it felt like for you to hear the author describe how much she loved her mother's body and that her mother loved her own body too, that she was not ashamed and she did not pass on that shame to her children. I love that poem. I have to tell you that I had another reading picked earlier last week. It was a really great social justice litany where we would say how much we support people of all bodies, which we do. I was committed to that one until I spent more and more time with this book. It's called The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. I highly, highly recommend this book. I was reading through it again, and then that poem was on the first page. And I thought to myself, I can't not use this. Every time I revisit Sonia Renee Taylor's work again, I am confronted with the way that body shame and our relationship to our bodies keeps us separate from ourselves. I opened the poem and I noticed my own discomfort. I noticed my own memories of my mother's body. I noticed the body shame that was passed on to me by the women in my family, and I decided to change the reading to this poem. One of my core beliefs is that we have to do our internal work in order to do the social justice work that we feel called to do. We have to get real about doing our healing work, getting vulnerable, more real. The mantra you've heard from me all year particularly applies to this service. Notice, pay attention, get curious, breathe. That's the big thing. Notice, pay attention, get curious, breathe. Talking about bodies is challenging and scary. In fact, I set this up over a month ago, and I've kind of been both kind of dreading and excited. So this is something. Sometimes you make yourself do the thing that makes you most afraid. So here I am. Much like money, something we also don't like talking about, but is with us every day. Bodies are this aspect of ourselves most of us ignore until there are some kind of flashing red signs, something that we cannot ignore anymore. All of a sudden, we cannot just pretend that our body doesn't exist. But we can do this. I trust that here in this space, where we are working to create a vulnerable space to share, that we can talk about scary things, even bodies. Our bodies are ordinary, mundane, mysterious, and exquisite. Every day, they do simple things, and I say simple as if it's ordinary, but it's really not. It's a very complex thing that our bodies do these things every day, day in and day out. They make it possible to see and be seen if our eyes are able to see further, and we notice how our eyes also change over time. Perhaps we don't have the ability to see. Maybe there are other senses that work for us in other ways. Our bodies, with the skin that we have, is our biggest organ, helps us to feel. Like I can feel the top of this pulpit stand that has some paint chips. I can feel that. To me, this is one of my grounding moments, coming up here and feeling this is the space. With our bodies, we can create meals with our hands that can be enjoyed by another. We can move through the world, even if it's from one space to another. We feel emotions and thoughts, and we've even learned through research recently that our brain is even controlled through nerves through our stomach. I am not sure what is beeping up here. Do you know? Okay. Is it this? I'm going to move it over there. It's kind of distracting. Entirely on their own, our organs conduct respiration, our heart beats, and our blood circulates. Have you thought how amazing that is? Like all day long, our heart just continuously beats without us telling it to do anything. Our lungs keep taking in air, and our blood circulates all day long without us saying a word. It's really quite remarkable how our bodies function both autonomously and in relation to what we tell it to do, even with just a second of us thinking, I need to move my hand, and my hand is moving. It's just truly amazing. Our bodies are daily miracles that allow us to experience the vast web of life that we mostly take for granted until something goes wrong. And then, all of a sudden, we're like, wow, look at what our bodies can do. Instead of having awe and amazement for our bodies, we have been told our entire lives that we should be ashamed and embarrassed for, depending on where we are regarding privilege in this country, the color of our skin, its shape, its size, its abilities or lack thereof, and the ways that it interacts sometimes with our own mental health as well. We carry so much shame that our bodies become an afterthought. For many of us, myself included, most of our life, our bodies were just a way that we moved our brains around in the world. It's just like somehow, for me anyway, it was like, oh, wait a minute, there's this whole part that's connected. It took me a long time, and sometimes I still have to remind myself of that. So when thinking about interdependence, our theme for this month, and listening to many of you over the last couple of months, one of the ways that I get ideas is just by listening to what's happening here. I thought about how that there couldn't be a more exquisite example of interdependence than our relationship to our bodies. So what if our relationship to our bodies was also a spiritual practice? What would it look like to intentionally have a regular practice of being grateful for our bodies? We're grateful for the sun, we're grateful for our food. What if we could think about, I am grateful for this body that takes care of me, and it does work for me every day. I think it would be pretty amazing if we could have that one layer of negativity and shaming removed from our lives, even just a tiny little bit, if we just worked on that just a tiny bit. What does our relationship to our bodies have to do with our faith? I know in a lot of religions they have specific teachings on bodies, and there are different ways that shows up in the work that we do. But I'm just wondering, what do you think that it says that we are thinking about in terms of our values? So I'm beginning to make some of the connections to our larger picture of how we live our faith and how these values that we've been talking about since the fall, how those might be connected. There are bigger picture things that we also do. We have OWL, which is the Our Whole Lives, a human sexuality program. We have programs around disability. But what specifically do our values that we're talking about, what do they say? So just like our current principles, the proposed values, I believe, overlap and intertwine. The words, "We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care, respect, mutuality, and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships." Those are the words from the value of interdependence. I think they align with the language in pluralism, which we're going to focus on next month. We're always way ahead to next month. Sometimes I have to ask, which month are we in? So the beginnings of pluralism state, "We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology." And then the verbiage for transformation, which we talked about last month, it talks about spiritual and ethical growth. All of these values are clearly interrelated. So what if we lined up, "We are all sacred beings," with, "We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships"? What if we believed that we too are sacred beings? And then, after believing that we are sacred beings, what if we could believe that we needed to work to repair harm to ourselves and our damaged relationships with ourselves and with our bodies? What if we believed, I'm just throwing this out there, what if we believed we could transform our relationship with ourselves, with our bodies, and from that have greater empathy for those around us and beyond? What if? I just like to throw out questions. What if? Could this be a possibility? If we could do these things, perhaps our relationships with our bodies truly could be an opportunity to learn and grow spiritually and ethically. I believe that if we can begin to make peace with our bodies, perhaps even ask forgiveness from it for the ways we have shamed and punished it, create a new relationship focused on love and joy, we can bring that love for all bodies to those around us. Now, kind of a sad thing is that most of us have an estranged relationship with our bodies that I mentioned earlier. You might not be one of those people. I'm going to hold it out there that somebody here does not have an estranged relationship with their body. And if that is you, I am thrilled. Yay. And I know that that is really not the norm in our culture. In our culture, it's not unusual and totally not unexpected to have a dislike of our own bodies. Our capitalist, ableist, sexist, racist culture prioritizes bodies that perform gender in specific prescribed ways, that are the correct size, whoever decides what correct is, the correct color, the correct height, the correct abilities, all of these things have to be just so. These cultural messages are sent to us on a constant onslaught every day, every single day. Whether it's in a magazine, maybe you're not somebody who picks up magazines, whether it's an award show, we just kind of went through the Grammys and the Oscars and all of this, and you see all the images. Whether it's through lyrics in a song, commercials, ads on a billboard, on and on and on. It's all about what our body's supposed to look like. The messages are everywhere, and they become insidious. These images are repeated so often that there is not only something, we begin to believe that there's something not only wrong with our bodies, but something wrong with who we are as people. Like we internalize a story, like there's something wrong with me because I don't look like that. It takes a lot of conscious effort to not make a story about ourselves based on these messages. Now, for some of you, this may sound like a whole bunch of narcissism. It may sound shallow and vain. I know I grew up in a family where my mother thought a lot about the way she looked, and my sister was too. And so the story that I got was that nobody said I wasn't attractive, but they said, "You're the smart one." And so It wasn't, so then the story I made about them was that they were shallow and vain because they cared about those things. And so that was a story I carried for a very, very long time because that was like a way I could kind of make sense of this opposite. And notice how people, we make each other wrong based on some kind of story that we've created. Based on these stories, we can come up with and do different life decisions, not always fully conscious of why we're saying or doing what we're doing. So I know that for myself, from the time I was even in middle school, that I was, or maybe even before, I was receiving from the women in my family strong messages that I had to be obsessed with what I weighed. It was on and on and on, and so then that eventually did manifest into me having weight issues up and down the scale many, many, many times, over and over again. And so one thing I've learned from that experience is that, yes, people do treat you differently at different sizes, in case you didn't know that. However, you are still the same person on the inside. It can be disorienting to get so much attention for being smaller, because if you're not careful, it can result in creating a new story that says that somehow you're now a better person, because all of a sudden people are like showering you with praise. You're like, okay, I'm really not any better. I just did this thing. So you have to be careful about how am I making a new story about myself. It can result in beginning to even think that about other people. It's easy to pass on judgment onto others if we're not careful. We start to think, a person who goes through that can start to think of themselves as a better person instead of reminding themselves that they are just a smaller person. They are just at a different weight. They're not a different human being. We have to be so careful about the stories we carry and the stories we create. Our UU teachings tell us that our value and worth as humans is truly inherent. I think of it kind of like this story of physics and energy. We cannot create it. It cannot be denied. It cannot be destroyed. There is nothing we can do to change our inherent worth and value. If we are born with a disability or develop one during our lifetime, we do not have less value than other people. That is one of our absolute core beliefs. If we do not adhere to the binary of gender norms in our culture, we still have, always will have, inherent worth and dignity. People of color are told explicitly from the time they are very young that they are less worthy than white people. In fact, there's a whole system of thinking called white supremacy that says white bodies, people in skin that look like mine, just by pure accident of having been born with a color like this, are somehow superior to people who have skin that has more melanin than mine. For no reason more than how much melanin is in the skin itself, laws, regulations, codes of all kinds have been implemented. What I know for sure is people with less melanin like me, do not have more value and worth than people with more melanin. Being born with this color skin does not in any way give me or anyone else more value. I think that that is something that we all believe. It is not always something that we have to remind ourselves because we live in this culture. We have to keep reminding ourselves this is the air we breathe. We're like living in the fish pond that has these messages, and we have to be aware of what we're actually doing and saying. All of these aspects of living in bodies creates barriers and boundaries around us as individuals and keeps us from being real and vulnerable with each other. We are always carrying stories about our value and worth, whether we mean to or not. We cannot help it. It is the air that we breathe. That is one of the reasons why I appreciate that the verbiage for the value of equity goes on to say that we have a right to flourish with inherent dignity and worth. Not only that you have inherent dignity and worth, but you have the right to flourish. You have the right and should be proud of how you show up in the world. And the right to flourish also means to have barriers removed for full participation in all of life. All of that is part of the statement on equity. So, what are some thoughts on how we can actually change our relationship with our bodies? Can this actually be done? I think it's kind of a lifelong project, but I'm going back to Sonia Renee Taylor. I love this. The body is not an apology. The power of radical self-love. Again, highly recommended. So in the back of her book, then she has 10 tools for radical self-love. And I'm going to share a few of them with you, and I encourage you to get the book to see the rest of this. So number 1, dump the junk, which is the toxic media has to go. Notice what you're paying attention to. Notice the story you're making up about it as you see it, whatever it is. And then try to cut yourself off from all of those sources, things that you notice, oh, I'm having a reaction to this. I'm making up a story about myself based on this. I need to stop that. Turn it off, cut off the subscription, whatever it is that is affecting you. This is one of my big ones that I try to always say to people when I hear this. Curb body bad-mouthing. Stop apologizing for the size, shape, color, ability of your body right now. Some of you, I hear, do this frequently. I'm begging you to stop. Some of you keep saying, oh, I have this wrong or that wrong. Let's not start with the negatives, because you're beautiful and amazing how you are. If we could just see that for ourselves, wouldn't that be incredible? Instead of starting with, oh, I have this wrong, and this wrong. You're amazing. And I believe our bodies can hear it too if we say these things. I believe in the power of meditation, because we now do a little bit longer meditations than we used to do. I'm just going to pass on a couple of mantras you might consider. I love my body. I am a vessel of radical self-love. My body is my ally. I have the body I need to live my best life. Maybe just repeating some of those every once in a while. Banish the binary that says bodies are good or bad. And I thought of that after I got this t-shirt for today that says all bodies are good bodies, and then going, did I create a binary? Or am I buying into a binary that they're both good and bad? So it's interesting how sometimes we create this. And I love how Sonia Renee Taylor in this section, she writes, humans aren't laundry. Stop trying to compartmentalize and sort yourself out. Messy does not always mean dirty. Sometimes it just means complicated, and complicated can be beautiful. Ask yourself, how might I approach life differently if I had compassion for my beautiful mess? When we find ourselves in the land of either-or thinking, characterized by words like always or never, I never eat this food, I never do this, or I always do that, it is a great sign that you may be going down the path of body negativity or at least impatience with yourself. Binary thinking is the antithesis of radical self-love. Explore your terrain. Get to know your body. Thinking about what is normal for yourself. I think of my father-in-law who gets these spots, then he has to get them checked on his head for skin cancer. Become aware of what is your norm, because you are the person, you are the owner of your own body. The doctors can help us, but you know what's normal for you. You have to know. Have some kind of movement that gives you joy. If you've been doing movement that doesn't bring you joy, you can let that go. I'm sure there's something else out there that can bring you joy in some way. Think about what kind of childhood games did you used to play? Did you play kickball or capture the flag? Did you like swimming? Did you like walking through the woods? What are some of the things that you used to do? Maybe even not too far all the way in your childhood. Something that that you would like to bring back, that brings joy back into your physical self. You still deserve to be delighted, no matter how old you are. Make up a news story about yourself and what your body can or can't do, and you are the ones who can create that story. The thing that we do every Sunday, be in community. She writes, "To move beyond the narrative of individuality is to move beyond the narrative of scarcity and not enoughness. It is in community that our stories are held up to the light of connection, and we begin to see clearly how we are having a shared experience of being human with other humans. Stories, fear, fog, and all." Here's an unapologetic inquiry. What have you been holding in secrecy, shame, or embarrassment? How has it kept you disconnected from others? What are you willing to let go of for the sake of connection? I know that sometimes it's hard to hear when people are going through some of their own physical things, and I know that sometimes it can bring up some stuff for us. Part of our work in community is being able to listen, not make it a sadness or fear about ourselves, but to be there with someone else for their experiences. This helps create the beloved community. Give yourself some grace. That's the big thing. Through all of this, give yourself patience. Now, in many religions, there's this idea that grace is the free and unmerited favor from God. Free and unmerited favor is a gift we can even extend to ourselves, regardless of our faith. We do not have to earn radical self-love. There's nobody out there handing it out to us if we do this or don't do that as a punishment or a holding anything back from us. We all deserve radical self-love. We can give that to ourselves. We can acknowledge that. We can give it to others. That is a part of this grace. To give grace to oneself is to move beyond words like worthy and deserving, terms that imply qualification and quantity. When we recognize ourselves as the embodiment of radical self-love, we stop trying to assess our self-worth. We begin to understand that it is inherent and unquantifiable. Ever tried to measure love? Totally unquantifiable. Love just is. We just are love. And now, here I hesitate. In the UU world, the next thing to do is list all the ways we are not living fully inclusive lives. I sometimes struggle with showing you the list because, just like in my own relationship to my own body, I don't find shame to be a compelling motivator. It's really not. Shame isn't something that keeps you going. And yet, we are called to live our values. What makes our faith different than many others is that we are called to action. We are faith with verbs, with action words. Love yourself, love your body, and work to make others' lived experience better, always. The equity value that I read earlier goes on to say that we covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. As Maya Angelou stated, when we know better, we do better because we are always learning. When we internalize the message that regardless of external messaging, we are worthy humans, every single one of us. And then when we truly internalize this understanding into our congregations, into our congregational life here, we use our time, wisdom, attention, and yes, money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. So what would that look like here at UCF? It means we continue to make this sanctuary as fully accessible as we possibly can for anybody who comes into our space. We think ahead about who is not in the room, and we make space for them, whoever they are. Right now, children and youth who use a wheelchair cannot get to the floor in our building that has our RE classrooms. Right now, no one who uses a wheelchair can get to the floor in the building that has offices and meeting rooms. That most of you know that. All of this is true at this very moment. A lot has happened over the years to make the building accessible, but there is more work to do. It means introducing ourselves with our pronouns. This is an easy and clearly inexpensive, it costs us nothing way to live inclusivity. It says, literally out loud, to non-binary and gender-expansive people that they are welcome, we are welcome, because I assure you that there are gender non-conforming, gender-expansive, non-binary people in the room right now. So we are always making space. It means doing our work and learning to be anti-racist in all that we do. It is not enough to be against racism as some idea we have in our head. Those of us with skin that looks like mine must learn how to do truly multicultural work. It has to be intentional. We have to examine the ways we benefit from white supremacy culture, the ways we act from the teachings we've inherited, and we have to work to remove all barriers in our minds and in our congregational systems. Love is a verb. If we truly act from love, the barriers I've just listed are issues we address with joy in our hearts because we want to live love in the world. I think of those of you who are parents and grandparents. You do things for your family members because you love them. You don't say, oh, this is so annoying to do this. You do things, you buy things because you're doing it out of love for them. Guilt and shame are not motivators. They keep us closed down and removed from each other. Love sees possibilities where shame only sees obstacles. Shame makes us dig deep into our defensiveness and self-protection. Whatever you need to do to feel more love for your body and yourself, please do. Love the exquisite example of interdependence that accompanies you every single day. Give yourself grace, compassion, and joy. Love is right here, if only we are open to it. Blessed be. Amen.
Generosity is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. You may also give online via the QR code on the back of the order of service. Thank you.
This song is called Feels Like a Miracle. Through my veins, it feels like a miracle. And I breathe out and in again. It feels like a miracle. The Spirit sends a sweet refrain. It feels like a miracle that I can sing a song again. It feels like a miracle. I feel holy, I feel good. Every spark of creation should feel the perfect truth of who I am. If you feel like a miracle, you ought to say amen. If you feel like a miracle,
Please rise as you are willing and able to sing our hymn from the Gray Hymnal, number 307, The Human Touch Can Light the Flame.
Our Unitarian ancestors remind us we are one. Our Universalist ancestors remind us all are loved. As we extinguish the flame on our chalice today, we ignite it inside of ourselves. Our commitment to our mission and to one another is an unquenchable flame. Let us remember that we are not alone until we light this flame next again. Amen.